It won't go on.
We might have one first. I'm not sure where you think.
First one.
Yeah. Probably so.
But it's
be
an
all
old
of us
development
tonight.
board, though.
Do it.
It's an old development board.
Maybe there's just some corrections that can be made.
We'll see. Karen, are you ready? You ready? Okay, if you would, please go ahead and stand and join me as we say the pledge and have an invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for another opportunity to come to this building, Lord, to represent the citizens of Walton County. Pray that you'll just give us patience and understanding as we make decisions that are in the best interest of the citizens and the best interest of furthering the county's business. Pray that you'll just be with us, protect us, and guide us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Got a light group in there, don't we?
We'll go ahead and open the meeting. Just a couple quick things before we get going. If you haven't already done so, please put your cell phones on silent or vibrate where we don't have too many interruptions. Also, I don't think we'll get to 9 o'clock, but if we do get to 9 o'clock, we will end the meeting at that time, and anything that has not been completed will be moved to the next meeting. Next item will be, we have a list of the meeting schedule, Wayne?
Yes, sir. It's in your packet. Should be in your packet. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that at the top.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion or questions, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We've got a couple of sets of minutes to approve, I think, right? Where they at? We have we have minutes from the October meeting. We'll do those first.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then we have the November 10th meetings minutes.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Dice?
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 items on the agenda. They are all other judicial.
Anyone anticipates speaking before the board or testifying before the board, would you please stand and raise your right hand and let me swear you in? If you plan on speaking or testifying before the board, do each of you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth? Thank you. And when you come to the podium, if you would, say your name. It's a little helpful if you'll spell your last name if it's unusual, and tell us that you have been sworn. Mr. Dice.
Mr. Chairman, the first item on our agenda is Treasure Trove Estates Phase 2 and 3. This is a major project being reviewed by Bob Durante from our staff. I'll ask Bob to come up and brief the board on this application.
Good evening. This is the technical review stage, phase 2 and 3. As you see in your staff report, it's 18.75 plus or minus acres with a proposed single-family residential development of 41 lots. I gave you an in-depth history in your packet. I just would like to make one point before I turn it over to the applicant. On April 30th of 2008, the final technical order was issued approving the master plan with phase one approval and conceptual approval of the future phase two and phase three that we're meeting today. That was approved by both the Planning Commission and the BCC. The 30 days after that date of April 30th, 2008, ended the public comment period. There apparently was no appeals, so that master plan is now in effect, and that is the binding master plan that was adopted, and that's what we are discussing today. There's been no changes, and at this time, I will now turn it over to Dean Burgess to make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob and members of the board. Is this on? Hello?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
All right. As Bob said, this is a master plan development. It was originally for 52 lots. The first phase involved 11 lots, so the remaining 41 is what we're here to review tonight. Master plan was approved in 2008. We're developing in accordance with that master plan. Some of you may wonder, well, why are we here if the master plan was approved? And typically, several years ago, once the master plan was approved, all the subsequent phases were minor developments. We've since had a change in that. Of course, you're familiar with PUDs. If they exceed the major development criteria, come back before the board. As does this development as a master plan. You have a map of the layout of the subdivision. I've got a board here that also illustrates it. It's laid out in accordance with the Land Development Code comprehensive plan requirements. Includes a wet detention pond system of drainage, water and sewer. Water is provided by South Warren Utility. Sewer is provided by regional utilities. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have regarding straightforward subdivision design.
Commissioners?
Just to clarify, all stormwater is retained on the site, correct?
All stormwater is directed to our ponds. You are allowed to discharge at the pre-development rate,
Okay.
which we do have a discharge as a wet ponds are allowed to do, and it is in accordance with the pre-development rate or below.
Okay.
Okay.
Was there an increase of the lots? Is that why you're coming back before us today?
No, ma'am. There's no change. From
Always been 41.
Well, the overall master plan is 52. We've already platted 12. 11 of those, leaving 41 remaining, which is what we're here before you.
Are those original 11 on this plat, or is that somewhere else?
The original 11 are along the bottom of it. The lots that you see at the bottom, that's phase one. Phase two is the cul-de-sac and the western road.
Okay. All right.
The layout and everything's the same, nothing's changed?
No, sir, nothing's changed.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We may call you back. We've got a few people who have signed up to speak. I'm just going to call you in the order that I have the sheets here in front of me. Brian McDonough. Brian, were you sworn in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Brian McDonough.
You spell your last name for?
Yes. McDonough. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just have some questions on development. My property is located off of Shelter Cove, which is on the western side, right there. Basically, that retention pond on the left side is going to be pretty much adjacent to my property. So one of my questions, so can any means of restricting access to that pond be made? Is there going to be a fence along that line of the property? Is there going to be some kind of obstruction? I have a small child or small children in the neighborhood, just concerned that, you know, could end up falling in the pond. So I'm concerned about that.
Okay.
I don't know you want me to go through? I submitted some of these questions, I don't know if you folks have copies of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, go ahead and go through them, and what we'll do is we'll ask Dean to come up and address them whenever,
Okay.
what we can't answer.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's good. The third question there. But yeah, I question why the pond would be located over there as opposed to the center section where there's already gonna be a bog area. That's looks like a portion of property that can't be developed. Seems like that'd be a better fit for the retention pond. That way it's not put up against the existing properties that are already over there.
Okay?
Okay, moving on, question on the increased traffic there. Coming off of Goldsby Road onto Highway 98, very congested area. It's very difficult to get out on the 98, even if you're turning to go westbound. You have to wait for traffic trying to cut across 98 going eastbound. A lot of times we'll sit there for quite some time. I noticed that there was a traffic concurrency analysis done saying that it would contribute to higher traffic volume on that section of 98, which is already considered over capacity. It looks like the developers are required to pay $59,840 due to that increased traffic. My concern was that money going to be used to put in a traffic light, possibly a turning lane for those going westbound?
It goes into a fund. Wayne not there?
He had an emergency, and you take care of it real quick, he'll be right back.
Can you address that?
It goes into the fund, the overall fund,
Right.
and if improvements are needed because of this, that money will be taken out of the fund, and that was determined by engineering percentage that it would cost
Right.
for the increase in traffic.
Right. It goes into a specific fund though for Highway 98.
And do those developments, if it's determined to put in a light or a turn lane there, is that something that is presented as part of one of these committee meetings, or?
That's a state thing. It's a state highway. So it wouldn't come to us.
Okay, so even though Goldsby is a county road?
Yeah.
it doesn't voice
Yeah,
it,
'cause-
is that way?
Yeah, the highway is a state road. That's a main road.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And my other concern is on the western edge of the property. Again, that butts right up to where my property is. So my main concern there is the retention pond, as I mentioned. I was curious as how much of that forested area is going to be left intact, or if it's all going to be cleared out. Basically having the neighborhood right there, that's a lot of additional houses, a lot of additional light and noise pollution. In addition, the wind can get pretty significant coming off the bay there, and that natural area kind of serves as a nice wind bridge. So, it's another one of my questions for the development.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Bet. Wayne?
Chairman, I want to just address a comment you mentioned, I think, about the prop fair share payments.
Mm-hmm.
That goes into an account for a certain segment of the roadway.
Right.
Obviously, to road construction is very expensive. Many times that account, you can't do improvements immediately, but as the account builds, they'll make improvements to mitigate the traffic. That's how that works. But it does go into account that is recorded in for that particular area of the roadway.
Okay. Then you want to answer those other questions?
If we want to do them one at a time, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think on this one it might be easier just to.
Okay, sure. In response to the comments, the retention pond location, a lot of thought goes into this whenever we're planning a subdivision, and the retention pond can be seen two ways. We're always conscious of trying to buffer to the neighbors, and in this instance, the retention pond was seen as a nice way to try to buffer up against the Shelter Cove neighborhood. Also, there is a 10-foot landscape buffer that is located along our property line. There's also the other side of a 33-foot easement that will be between his lot, or the lots there, and our development. So it'll be 33 plus our 10-foot landscape buffer, 43 feet between the two. It's treed. You'd really have to try to get there to go through that. It's heavily wooded, and a fair amount of it is wetlands and thick. I guess the traffic comment was the only they raised, I think the board and Mr. Dice did a good job of explaining that the funds do go for road improvements, and that's scheduled at such time as Lincoln County sees fit. It's probably important to note that had we sought our development order for the entire development back in 2008, there was available traffic, and we would have owed no proportional fair share.
Right. He had a question as far as the retention pond. That's not going to be fenced in or anything?
It's not, the
No
side
barricade.
slopes are gradual, they're 6-to-1 slopes, and based on the Water Management District and DEP criteria, it's not required to be fenced unless they exceed 4-to-1 slopes, which these don't.
Okay.
And the intent of the pond is, when, wet ponds, we're trying to make them an amenity and aesthetically pleasing, to throw a fence around it to deter us from that.
Okay. It's understandable having a concern with small children. It's just,
Sure.
just trying to figure out ways to keep them safe. Okay. Keith Clark. I'll ask you.
I'm just with Dean. I don't have anything in
All right.
particular. I might want to talk later
Okay.
after we hear from everything.
Pete Barton.
My name is Pete Barton. I was going to speak on behalf of the family member,
Okay, you were sworn in?
but I was, yeah. But we were going to kind of go, we had one representative spokesman for the group that was going to speak first. Don't know if you'd like to hear from him.
Is that William?
Sean Cross.
No? That's fine.
My name is Sean Cross, last name is spelled C-R-O-S-S, and I have been sworn in.
Okay.
Before I get started, I'd like to present you guys with a few documents just so we can follow along.
Just give the applicant a copy as well so he can. If you'll handle it here. Thanks. Yeah. Mr. Burgess, do you have any objections to this going into evidence?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll mark this as, I'm assuming you guys were objecting to the developments. I'm going to mark it as objectors exhibit number 1.
Yes, sir, we are.
Objectors exhibit number 1. Mr. Chair, I would recommend you accept it into evidence.
It's accepted.
First off, Dean, would you mind if I use your easel?
No, go ahead.
Sean,
That'll be fine.
thank you. First off, to the board, thank you very much for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Sean Cross, as I said earlier. I am a homeowner, parcel owner, property owner, however you want to look at it, on Casa Grande Lane. I personally own 2 parcels there. And I'm actually speaking tonight on behalf of, I think everyone that's going to raise their hand behind me, please. Thank you. And the surrounding communities on Casa Grande Lane, Forest Park, and pretty much anybody else who is around Treasure Trove. I'd like to step back a little bit. First off, let me just say this and to you guys. Our intentions are not to stop your development. And I want to let the board know that. We are not here to stop this development of Treasure Trove. We have some concerns, and that's what I'm speaking about here tonight. Looking back a little bit in history, in 2003, Mr. Dave Thomas purchased 24 acres consisting of 4 old government parcels known as lots 56, 57, 58, and 59. That was known as a part of Santa Rosa Plantation Company. I want you to keep in mind those 4 numbers because I'm going to address those a little bit more on this picture that I have over here to my right. This is also going to lay the groundwork for issue number 1 that we had. Increasing density in a floodplain which opposes the Walton County Comprehensive Plan. I think you all know about that. Number 1, I'm going to step over here to this drawing, and you guys can follow along with me. It's the same thing. Simple math is going to help explain why we feel you guys should deny phase 2 and 3 based on this chart right here tonight. Now please follow along with your handouts. Back in the day when this was purchased, lots 56, 57, 58, and 59, which are in red, were composed of 75 lots throughout that site. Now, within those 75 lots was a development by the name of Corsair Estates, which is comprised of 53 lots. So I want to go over exactly where these 75 lots are so that we're all quite clear on this. Corsair Estate had 53 lots, like I just said. We numbered it from the top left going all the way around down here to the bottom, which is 53. When we get to 75, there's 9 other lots right here on the south side of Casa Grande Lane, and to the north of Casa Grande Lane, there's 13. We add all of those up, we get 75 lots. Now, when they first drew up this plan of phase 2 and 3, they drew it up with 52 lots. Well, we're looking at Corsair Estates at 53. We ask ourselves, how did we get to the number of 52? Well, it's pretty easy. We subtracted number 1 right here, which is the 53rd lot that we have numbered, which is actually lot 4 of Block D. That lot was owned by Mr. David Thomas. That's how we got to 52. Now, if you start doing the math and adding all of this together, there are 52 lots, plus the 13 down here, plus 12. Now, I mentioned 9 before, but I'm going to bring up a point here. If you notice lot 37 and 48, which is technically numbered as lot 13 and 16 of block B and C, that gives you your 12 lots. So if we go back and add again, we're going to add 13 plus the 12, plus their 40 that they're proposing here, and the lots that have already been approved. They're overbuilding what's already been approved at 50 lots. They're adding 2 additional lots to this development. Now, it brings up another point. They have an amenity lot.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I don't,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you
Go ahead.
confused me. Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
when you say increase the density, is that from the original government patents lot structure or from the master plan that was approved earlier?
That's from the original government
Okay,
lots that we
okay.
have pictures
I
of.
was counting them, I just want to make
Right,
sure.
yes, sir. 75 total.
Okay.
Okay, the other issue we have is with the phase 3 amenity lot, which if you look back on Mr. Burgess's plan here, I'm just going to lower this for a second. Right here in this top left corner, phase 3, no development proposed. Well, I'm here to tell you that is a water amenities lot that they are planning on using, and I'm sure they're going to talk about it after I'm done. Okay? We all own real estate, and we know why they're doing it. They're doing that to increase the value of these lots. Totally get it. However, we have individuals who live right up close to this water amenities lot, which is lot 13 of Block A. This individual should be entitled to some type of privacy buffer. The other thing is, if we've got phase 1, 2, and 3, should be 50 lots, not 52. Where are these 50 homeowners going to park when they access this amenities lot? I can tell you right now that Casa Grande Lane, on average, is 14 feet wide. It's paved, but it's not really great pavement. The other question we have is, the road that's proposed, which is Galley Lane, going back to this document right here, from the south to the north, is this road being proposed by the county for interconnectivity? Or is it being used just for the convenience of the homeowners in Treasure Trove, phase 1, 2, and 3? Now, we had a meeting with the county commissioner. He recommended we speak with the planning board. That meeting took place, absolutely no progress was made. We actually did reach out to ECA. Mr. Clark, I think there's some potential there to work together. Mr. Clark actually knocked on the door of one of the residents. I think we can go in the right direction. Simply to say, look, we're not bringing a problem to you. We're bringing a proposed solution to a problem that is harmonious between Treasure Trove, phases 2 and 3, and the surrounding residents on Casa Grande, which is what's left over from the original Corsair plat. Our recommendation and solution to this problem to get you guys back within the footprint of 50 lots, which is what the original plat should be, is to eliminate lots 40, 41, put in a cul-de-sac, which will allow parking for people. It will also allow a proper turning radius for emergency responders. And instead of that road going through to the north, install some type of walking path, nature trail, bike path to allow the residents of Treasure Trove to access the water amenities lot. I want to go to a point that Mr. Burgess said when he first started talking. This master plan was developed and approved 9 years ago. That is a long time. Things change in 30 days. I can tell you they surely change in 9 years. What was really good 9 years ago is not necessarily the best thing for the surrounding communities today. And I really want you guys to take that into consideration. My final remark is, I'm a parent, a homeowner. My son's 7 years old. There are 2 lovely young ladies, aged 6 and 5, back here in the background. We live, these children play on this street. It's a great place to grow up. And I want you guys to think about them tonight as if they were your own children, grandchildren, and take that into consideration when you make your decision, so that they can one day sit where you guys are and make sound decisions for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, if I may answer some of those questions.
Sure.
As you see in my history of the Treasure Trove Estates, that alignment was desired by county commissioners. They wanted to go through public safety to be able to come up and go over and come out for safety. The property that's mentioned on the waterfront is not part of the master plan. So it's not included, it's not being offered. I have not heard that it's being offered as amenity. But that road was part of a land swap deal, as I mentioned, on the western end. That has been vacated, but to finish the swap, this platted road will be required.
Okay.
So that was part of the final conclusion with the county commissioners, is that road to go through to provide for public safety and access.
Okay.
It'll improve access time to get to that part with the fire trucks coming through. So that was why that land swap was approved.
When did they make that decision?
That was also made in the, let me see when exact, in the 2005, 2006 time period when the master plan was approved. And we have comments from the engineer, and they wanted still to design as it is.
The engineering department said that?
Yes, they had no comments or concerns on the road because they knew that that was what was being designed in the master plan.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart, did you want me to reply to?
Just go ahead and wait.
Sure.
Let's see what the rest of them got to say.
All right.
Pete Parton.
Hi, again, my name is Pete Barton. Speaking on behalf of a family member who owns a parcel adjacent to this, and really it's piggybacking on a lot of the concerns Mr. Cross raised.
Yeah, we don't want to we don't want to go through every one of those things again. I mean,
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's
Yeah,
briefly,
yeah,
one of
yeah.
the density issue and the preference for potential cul-de-sac versus the road connecting.
okay.
And I think there was also some concerns about potential turning radius and issues getting from that connecting road to there
Mhm.
to Casa Grande Lane, which
Okay.
again, right now is a road, county road, is definitely not, or I don't believe be built up to current county standards, but that's what we get today.
Okay.
So I think that was it.
All right. Thank you. William Pollery?
William Pollock, sir.
Pollock?
I took the oath, I just have some few concerns here. Since this was approved way back in 2008, the traffic has increased immensely, especially if you look at all the people that come from the Bay Area that surrounds this whole thing. The park is now almost done. There's a whole bunch of, so there's a lot of people. Anyway, other concerns are, is the fire department aware of the additional houses that you're gonna have to monitor. The traffic has increased, we're gonna need a stoplight, they talked about that. How about hurricane evacuation? What about that? What about the water runoff from the ponds, where they overflow into some property? Noise pollution, traffic, construction, noise, city water, sewer, or is it gonna be septic tanks? What's the minimum sizes of the houses? All of those things, we'd like to know. The size of the homes, is there gonna be an architectural review board to keep the homes as they should be versus the neighborhood that they're adjacent to? That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
Mr. Chair, as you may be aware, one of the inside reviewers is the fire department along with engineering. The fire department has reviewed the radius. There was initial comments, the radius was fixed by the applicant, and now the fire marshal has no concerns or comments on the radius.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess? But, sorry, there's nobody else that's signed up. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak before we move on to Mr. Burgess answering questions? Okay, thank you.
Hey, can I ask Dean one more question? I'm sorry, this is my not being confused, I guess. On the tax map, it shows Los Robles Grande Drive extending north. It's not developed that way, but there's a strip of land that's called Los Robles Grande Drive.
Where are you referring to?
I think it's on the western border of the property.
On the western border?
Yeah. Is that?
It may show that right of way.
But you don't own. Do you own that property underneath there? It doesn't. And I'm reading off the tax map, and I know that's not always accurate, but it shows it as Los Robles Grande Lane, which I assume is a county road.
It is one of the 33-foot easements. There's
Okay.
33 feet on our property, 33 feet
Okay.
on the shelter code.
Okay. Is that the road that Mr. Barante was speaking of?
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
sir. And I'll elaborate on
Okay.
that.
Thank you. I was just confused. Thanks.
I think I'm going to keep this with me just for reference as I'm speaking. I'll start with Mr. Cross's comments. Regarding the 2 additional lots that he believes that we're adding to the subdivision. Again, that was part of the review back in 2007 and 2008 for the master plan. I've got a copy of the original Corsair Estates. This is what was, you're welcome to pass this around and keep this if you want as an exhibit. I've got the original, which is very delicate, taped together, it's old, but this is an exact copy of it. If you want to see the original, I'll be happy to show it to you. But
We're going to call this applicant's Exhibit 1.
that would be fine.
Okay.
But I believe the markings on the exhibit that they had may be somewhat misleading. This is the actual Corsair Estates unrecorded plat. Staff reviewed that map and determined that there were 52 lots available to us after Mr. Developed or took out 8 lots. It was 53 minus the one that he used for his personal house. There's an area there in the center that I believe the county counted as 2 lots, which is viable. It's otherwise would be just no man's land, and those 2 lots I think are not credited on the exhibit that they showed. We're kind of getting into talking about the 2008 approval, which is not the subject matter of tonight's hearing. But I did want to install some validity to it. I don't think anything nefarious has gone on. I think it was determined to be 52 lots available in this subdivision, and I think it still stands. The water lot, as he's calling it, is not a lot. It is privately owned. It's a privately owned piece of property that will be sold to Mr. Clark. And the owners within the subdivision are able to go out there and look at the bay, fish if they like. There are no structures proposed. There is no parking lot proposed. It is just a natural park that will be available to the residents to use as passive recreation. Obviously, if there were even so much as a parking lot to go in there, the county would want to have plans, and there'd be a minor development order submitted required for that. We understand it's narrow. There is no way to design a parking lot. I wouldn't even attempt it. I think these lots are close enough to where it's walkable if people want to use it and keep it as enjoyment of that area. Galley Lane, Mr. Davis, I think, gets into some of the questions you had about the right-of-way. As part of the development, we asked and were granted to abandon this easement. There's a lot of wetlands associated with that easement, and a stipulation of that abandonment was that we provide a secondary road that essentially parallels the usage of the extension that we asked to abandon. That's what Galley Lane does, and we're sensitive to the neighbors' concerns. They'd like to see a cul-de-sac here so it doesn't encourage traffic to Casa Grande Lane. However, Public Works expressed they want to maintain connectivity between, that this road provided between Casa Grande Lane and Los Robles, by this road not terminating in a cul-de-sac and actually continuing through. It doesn't benefit us at all within the subdivision. I don't see anybody within the subdivision traveling north to enter or exit the subdivision. It would be a much longer route through a narrower street that isn't paved as well. So I'd like to offer that as to the neighbors, that I just don't see that there's going to be a cause or a reason compelling people to utilize that section of the road. It does offer a usable road for emergency vehicles, though, in the event that there is a problem that needs to be addressed. It provides better access. Galley Lane will be a public road. It's designed to public standards. It's 50-foot right of way. Of course, we're going to maintain it privately along with our stormwater on it. One of the issues brought up was, obviously noise and so forth associated with the subdivision. We understand that. As the houses go up and are occupied in the subdivision, we're going to be sensitive to those same things. Those people that have just moved into those new houses are going to want to have those same things. So I think it's in everybody's best interest to obviously minimize that as the subdivision gets developed out. Everybody intends to be good neighbors, and hopefully they will be. But the idea that the children are going to be endangered by this subdivision just because it's been constructed, I think is a little misleading. Mr. Barton basically reiterated those points, and I understand his issues and concerns, and it is our intent to be good neighbors when this is built. Mr. Powry raised some different issues from Mr. Cross, and I'd like to go through those. Mr. Ronnie responded to the fire and evacuation. Actually, I think the subdivision will improve evacuation and fire service to these lots by the addition of Galley Lane. In the event one of these lots has an emergency, currently emergency vehicles have to travel all the way around to the emergency. Galley Lane will provide emergency vehicles some better access and a little shorter response time. Water runoff, our stormwater system, had this been developed as Corsair Estates, there would be no stormwater system for this development. We've got a wet detention pond system, meets DEP and Water Management District criteria. I think it will be an improvement to the neighborhood and hopefully help to resolve any of the drainage issues they may be experiencing. Septic tanks, we're on water and sewer. We've got a gravity collection system that goes to a central lift station. The size of the homes, I'm sure are going to vary. They're going to be, custom-built homes, but they're going to be comparable in size to what surrounds the area, possibly a little bit larger. There is an architectural review that will be established There will be an association to maintain stormwater in the roads and so forth. And part of that association will include architectural review. I think the neighbors will be pleasantly surprised at the quality of homes that will be going in. And if need be, Mr. Clark can elaborate on what he intends to be and how big they are. I think that covers all the comments that were brought up. If there's any on the board, I'd be happy to address them.
Cover me. Mr. Clark, you want to?
My name's Keith Clark, and I've been sworn in, and I'm with Northwest Garden Development. We purchased this property from David Thomas recently, like, 1 second. And, it is an ongoing subdivision. Phase 1 has been platted, and we have not made any deviations from the master plan. It has been the same the whole time. I understand some of the people's concerns with traffic and not wanting the road to be improved. We want to give them that choice. You know, the Public Works and Engineering said that we have to put that road in. And they wanted connectivity between the two public roads. So, we want to give them a choice as to whether to put a cul-de-sac or not. Or we could have, you know, we could have done it either way. But, I even met with a couple of the neighbors, just to go check in and see what their concerns were. And I understand the concerns. You know, where that road comes out, I'm willing to fence and landscape, and it will be a lot better than what it is now. And I offered her that we may come up with a gate. Public Works doesn't want anything, even if you've got a clicker to open it.
Yeah.
They don't want it.
No, we want access.
Yeah, they want clean access to where they can get more than one emergency. If they have a big fire, they can, you know, right now, it is very dangerous. So I just wish that the commissioners will proceed and let me go forward. And we will develop, the houses in there will be up to probably 3,800 square feet. So, I mean, we're gonna be building in the 25 to 28 would be a standard house. And we will not be degrading any of the houses in the city.
You're not doing no tiny houses, huh?
No.
Okay.
No beach houses.
Right.
Without garages.
Yeah.
No, these will be houses with double-car garages.
Okay.
So, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. No,
We don't.
no, just not, the procedure don't allow that.
No rebuttal.
No.
They got to rebut.
Only the applicants.
That's part of the process.
Only the applicants allowed rebuttal
That's
under our
right.
rules. Under the code.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Let it stand.
Absolutely.
Object over here. All of us object.
Okay, I want to explain real quick the purpose of the planning commission. You may not understand why you're here or why we're here. We're here to just simply make sure that projects that come before us meet the requirements of the code. Okay? We can't take emotional arguments into consideration, regardless of what we may think emotionally or politically. We review and make a decision based on what's presented. Does it meet the requirements of the code that we have before us? The political, emotional arguments should be made before the county commissioners. That's what they get paid for. So understand that, okay? We're simply reviewing a process and whether the process meets what's required by the code, okay? Having said that, the public portion is clear. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions. I'm just concerned with the stormwater pond showing a 33-foot Gulf Power easement to its west. Also, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I know you guys have looked at this really tight, but I'm also concerned that there's only a 14-foot wide drive, the road itself. That seems awful small for 2 cars. And you also say you have curb and gutter in there?
Mr. Chairman, if I can just respond to that, there are a couple things I'd like to respond to. One is the mention about the flood, increasing density in the flood zone. When we get these projects, this was approved, as Bob pointed out, 08 timeframe. And the conceptual plan was approved at that time. It's our job to look and to make sure it meets the requirements of that conceptual plan. That density that was approved by the board where it was. And so we can't go back and undo what the board's already approved. They've already been given a vested right to that particular development pattern or style. And it goes to the same issue with roadways. Even though we may have different opinion today, they were given that approval, and it's our job to make sure that our view is consistent with that approval. So make sure that that's clear. This project was started, it was continued, and it's still valid as far as it being the ability for it to be moved forward with phase 2.
Right. I think everybody recognizes that changes happen over time.
They did.
And traffic patterns change, population growth changes.
You do,
but you have a vested interest. This was approved.
That's right. And these developments, most of these developments, especially in the past 10 years, have not occurred quickly because of the recession and so forth. Sandestin has been around since 1973. They're still building houses. So that's an extreme example of how these developments continue. But just because we have changed something in 1980 didn't affect Sandestin and their ability to go forward to some extent, as an example.
Right.
So I want to make sure that they understand what our job is as a staff is to review what's been approved by the board, these conceptual plans, and make sure that they are still in accordance with that. They're not deviating from that original approval. We look at that very closely, we scrutinize that very closely. Bob reviews it. We have a peer review of a team of our planners who look at it to make sure, so it goes through several reviews. But again, it's based off the conceptual plan approval that was given by the board in 2008.
Okay.
Wayne, let me ask you something then. So are you saying the commissioners don't have the discretion to change that road, Galley Lane going through there and turn it into a cul-de-sac if they don't? I know we don't, but.
I'll give you a layman's opinion, but I'll defer to Davis on that. But I think that if they approved it originally, then would have the ability to alter it if they saw fit.
That's correct. They could reject they could change it, or they could reject the Public Works recommendation.
So if they decide that the applicant and a lot of the homeowners around there decide that that's something that they can live with, then they could discuss that with commissioners and they can make that decision.
Yes, that'd be my opinion. They could take it up with them, and the board could.
Okay.
Make deviations from that.
The only other question I had was the 12-inch culvert that is cited as being the runoff to the north, is that big enough for this size subdivision?
And I will defer that to the expert engineer. I'm not an engineer, I'll defer that to Dean to answer as far as its ability to handle stormwater.
I know this was done a long time ago. I just want to be assured of that, or we could maybe increase the size if necessary.
I'm not familiar with a 12-inch culvert.
I was just looking on the main plat here, and I was actually looking at a letter of intent from a Mr. Sean Cross stating that he was concerned about flooding potential with a 12-inch culvert being the only, that road that only has one culvert at this time, and he said that's not going to be large enough to handle all this subdivision.
And I believe what he's referring to is the culvert going across Casa Grande Lane.
Right.
This culvert shown here.
Mm-hmm.
That may be a small culvert. I would be surprised if it's 12. Typically, Public Works doesn't use anything under a 15-inch culvert. I know when we're designing public roads, they will not accept anything lower than 15-inch. But even if it were 15, I would, that may raise some concern.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be happy to combine with the neighbors to look into that. I do know, I can tell you this, that our subdivision discharges less stormwater, a lower stormwater rate than what currently runs off of the property. So the implementation of this subdivision will not overburden that culvert any more than what it currently is.
On the plat I'm looking at, it says 18, but that's also, this is a county issue too, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
county road.
Yeah.
That's
But
not the one.
I would, if it is just a single 18-inch pipe, it's
Yeah.
probably worth having that discussion with Public Works.
I noticed that some of the lots are pretty nice size. I mean, I live in a old neighborhood with only 50-foot wide lots, and these are some of them 65, and then there's a few that are just 40-foot. Is there a reason for the inconsistency on the sizes of lots?
To offer a variety to the potential homeowners.
Is
Some
our
people-
developer gonna be building different price levels or
That's
different
correct.
size homes?
That's
Can you
correct.
expound on the sizes?
Of the homes?
Yeah, like how many
I would
square feet?
Have to defer to, I think Mr. Clark had outlined that there would be as much as 3,800 feet down to, on average, 22 to 2,600 square feet.
Okay.
One other thing, if I could interject, on the road, I think there may have been some confusion. I think Ms. Castleman mentioned a 14-foot road. There are, our roads within subdivisions are not any narrower than 22 feet.
Okay.
And they are curb and gutter.
All right.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else?
Nope.
With the recommendation that they said they would maybe look at the water runoff, the retention water and everything, I think we can make enough, ask the commissioners to consider, that they make sure that this is going to have good stormwater runoff. And I'm sure they'll study that further and make a motion to go before the commissioners.
So you'd make,
Well, if you'll add to that, that they'll look at that cul-de-sac down there, taking Galley Lane and turning it into a cul-de-sac, since both parties agree. If they'll look at that.
We'll amend the motion to do that too.
okay, could you restate, Karen, did you get all that? I think you're making a motion to approve with a
Yes.
recommendation.
Make the recommendations that the commissioners will consider making the cul-de-sac, that the parties interested in making sure that people won't have a way to go in and out.
That's on
On
Galley,
Galley.
on Galley Lane.
Valley Lane. And also to pay very close attention to the stormwater issues and runoff.
Got it? Okay, we have a motion.
I'm just going to state it back just to make sure we're clear. Recommend the project with the recommendation that Galley Lane is made a cul-de-sac, and that Public Works and
If
the
they
applicant
consider the cul-de-sac.
look at the stormwater off the property on that north end up there. Is that about right? Okay.
Does that sound right? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, number 2 on our agenda is the Butler Mini Storage Small Scale Amendment. This is a request for a small scale land use change from rural residential to light industrial on 5.90 acres. I'll ask Ms. Pam Tillman from our staff and give the board a presentation on this request.
Good job.
Yeah, for the RPC. That'll be fine.
Now we can.
Okay,
There you
Christine Samelman with the Planning Department. This is an application from Mr. George Butler through Core Engineering for a small-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map on approximately 5.90 acres located west of Laird Road, east of Rainbow Drive, and north of US Highway 90. The current future land use designation is rural residential, and the applicant is requesting to go to light industrial. The proposed amendment of the land use map is requested to initiate future development of a mini storage business.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
You said this is actually north of Highway 90? We don't hear Highway 90 ever in these meetings, so.
Yes, sir. North of US Highway 90, it is north.
Okay. I want to make sure I was hearing it right.
It threw me off there. And
Anybody have any questions for staff
I'll
on this? Okay.
defer to Corey.
You have anything, Mr. Rapp? Up to you.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Commissioners. Ed Stanford with Core Consulting. I have been sworn in. Fairly straightforward. It's Highway 90, yes. And if you're familiar with this area, it's getting close to the Okaloosa County line. There's some more industrial-related activities up there already, including auto salvage yard, sand pits, those type of things surrounding. A little bit of history. We actually were interested in going to a commercial land use, but due to the lack of, I guess, future expansion of the wastewater treatment and service to that area, there's a small little area in the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan that actually doesn't allow us to go to general commercial. So that's why we're actually requesting the light industrial to do the mini storage units. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Is this just going to be, it's not going to be climate controlled or anything, it's just straight mini storage?
I doubt that because it's probably not even going to have a tenant there, fence, self-serve, that type of thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? Nobody signed up to speak. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Commissioners?
Is this backed up to any residential?
There's residential back there, but it's not directly on it.
There was no comments about it, so.
There's not a whole lot out there. Actually, just.
And we had no public
Residential
comments.
to the north, but there's significant, we meet all the buffering requirements from the Land Development Code to those uses. And those are extremely large 2 acre, 2 acre type lots.
Smallest would be an acre.
Yeah.
Most of them are 5 and 10 acres.
They're pretty large.
40 lots on that.
That's what I'm moving to. Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make the motion we approve.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is number 3. It is the Palmer Small Scale Amendment. Bob's going to present in just a minute. I want to make a few comments first, if I could, on this small scale amendment. The request is to go from conservation residential to low density. The lot size they're looking to change is 0.257 acres, which is roughly about 11,200 square feet. On first look at this, it looks very odd because you have an area that is conservation residential with one lot we're trying to change to low density residential. But let me explain how this came up. Mr. Palmer had applied for a building permit to build on one of these 11,200 square foot lots. I think there's 26 lots in this unrecorded subdivision. Our office rejected this because it does not meet the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. When you look at conservation residential, the Comprehensive Plan requires that for each lot, 40% of the total parcel can be cleared. 60% must be retained in its existing natural state and preserved as open space. When you have 11,200 square foot lot and you're going to have to retain 60% of that, it leaves next to nothing to develop there. Furthermore, when you go and look at the corresponding land development district that's associated with conservation residential, because we have the comp plan that has the clearing requirement or the open space requirements. When you look at the conservation residential and you look at the purpose of it, it says the district includes private large tract ownership. Obviously, 11,200 square foot lots is not large tract ownership. So it's my opinion, it's my professional opinion that the designation that was given in 1996 doesn't match what is physically on the ground for the Sea Pines unrecorded subdivision, which this is. There have been lots that were built in there over time that do not meet the Comprehensive Plan Land Development Code. I don't know how or why that was done, but they're there. Mr. Palmer was stuck in this precarious position where we couldn't approve it because it didn't meet the Comp Plan or Land Development Code.
Is this the one just to the other side of the 2 DR
Yes.
developments? Okay.
So, so he asked us, what can I do? Well, you've got basically you could ask for the whole subdivision to be changed, but they're all in private ownership, and for an individual to go and do that, it's very, very cumbersome, very difficult, and the likelihood of getting everybody to agree or even getting in contact with everybody is very, it'd be very little. I don't think you could do it.
So we're gonna see this again, is what you're saying now?
Well, potentially. For his issue, he is trying to build now, and this is the best course of action that we could come up with for him to be able to proceed with building his house. And this is why you see one lot of 11,200 square feet in an area that is CR 2:1. The land use he's asking for is low density residential, which allows up to 4 units per acre. Obviously, for this issue, it doesn't matter because his lot's already there. It's already a recorded lot or a described lot. So in my opinion, I believe that the original land use that was given to this property was probably not appropriate. Now, in their defense, in 1996, they were using crayons and didn't have the GIS tools and all the research tools we have today, and so it was very rudimentary and very difficult back in those days to do this. And so in my opinion, I think this may have been an error. As you know, we are going through the process with the Matrix group, who was looking at our comp plan land development code, which will also be part of our EAR process. Our every 7 years in Florida, you have to do an evaluation and appraisal report of your comprehensive plan, and at that time, you can make adjustments to the future land use map. We fully intend to bring this property to the attention of Matrix and also make this part of our EAR-based submissions to have the appropriate land use given to this property based on its current physical characteristics. And so with that, it looks odd, but I think it's been described as spot zoning. I think in this case it's not, because I would submit that the current zoning or current land use now is not appropriate. So therefore, a change to something that's more appropriate cannot be that spot zoning. But we do intend to bring this up as far as our EAR-based amendments and try to get it corrected. I wish I could tell you this is the only one we have in the county, but we have numerous areas throughout the county where, just based on when it was done originally, didn't fit and doesn't fit today. So you'll see more of these, but we intend to try to find these and locate these as we go forward and try to get those cleared up through a process with the Matrix group and also with doing some EAR-based amendments in the future.
Okay.
I'll ask Bob to come up and do the rest of the presentation.
That's clear as mud. Has everybody got any questions about that?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
So sort of, kind of, but maybe not.
I guess I don't really have anything more to add. Wayne did a wonderful job. The question was asked, is there more? I believe the applicant is working on coming in with his current property, his home is, but he ran out of time for this process, correct? And we'll see that shortly.
Correct. I don't know if he intends to
Okay.
bring that. He has a house built.
So, that's all I had to add.
Okay.
Commissioners, wait a minute, we can deal with the public portion. Applicant, do you have anything to add?
Well, no. I'll introduce myself. My name's John Nash. I'm with O'Connell and Associates. We're consulting engineers for the applicant. I have. It's NASH, by the way. And the staff did a wonderful job trying to explain what's going on here. The owner just wants to build his house as quickly as he can and get this problem fixed. And so hopefully this will go through and the neighborhood will get fixed in the future.
Well, this is not the first one of these we've seen, and it certainly won't be the last.
Right. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
None.
Okay. We have nobody who signed up to speak. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Commissioners?
Now I'll make the motion to amend the Walton County Comprehensive Plan future land use map to give this man, this gentleman, the right to build a home, and propose that to the commissioners.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, number 4 on our agenda is Lakeview Subdivision Small Scale Amendment. This is an application to request a land use change from conservation residential 2:1 to small neighborhood of 0.7 acres. I'll ask Ms. Sam Semman for our staff to come up and brief the board on this application.
Good evening, Commissioner. Christine Salmon with Planning. This is a application for a small-scale amendment to the future land use map. The current designation is Conservation Residential 2-1. They are requesting that it be changed to small neighborhood. Now, the code requires in a small neighborhood that you have 10 acres to change it. This area was changed back in '05. I believe I put a bit of that in the history of it. It was changed back in '05 and '06. And these two very small lots were not included in that for whatever reason. And now along comes the applicant and they want to develop, and we have this very small corner that they're going to add into what is already small neighborhoods, so it would comply with the code at that point, as far as the size goes. And that is basically what we're looking for. It is located from US 331 and Highway 98 intersection, approximately 4 miles. Then you go up Thomas Road and drive for about 0.4 miles, and the property is located on the east side of Thomas Road. I'm going to let the engineer get into more detail with you unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions, staff? Okay, thank you.
Hello. Commissioners, I'm Curtis Smith with Interlight Engineering. And I want to start just by saying that this is part of a larger development project. There may be people here tonight to talk about the larger development project, but we actually just went to TRC on that yesterday, so that won't be on the agenda for Planning Commission until either next month or the following. Tonight, we're here really just to focus on the small-scale amendment, which is really just like we just passed in the last project, just tidying up the maps that were probably not appropriate to begin with. So I want to point out on this larger blow-up of the map here, what we're talking about is this tiny square red here on the southwest. The overall project is the entire old Santa Rosa Beach plantation parcel there, the entire rectangle. So we're talking about 0.7 acres right now. Right now, in this 0.7 acres is a mobile home with some old trash and garbage, really. It's vacant at the time. And it currently does not comply with Conservation Residential 2-1 due to the preservation requirements that Wayne just talked about in the last project. The requirements are 60% conservation, that land that can't be touched. If you look at, I don't know if you can see the faint red square, it's actually already been cleared well over that 40% mark. So it's out of compliance currently. We're looking at just moving it into the larger development project to make it contiguous.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll bring up one more map. This is the overall development project that will be heard next month or the following. The red on the southwest corner is where this is. There is actually only one lot there, one residential unit that's proposed in this. And the commercial components that are also within it are part of the small-scale neighborhood requirements. We're required to do commercial against the developer's wishes. But we're putting those at the front of the neighborhood where they make sense.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
We have a couple people who have signed up to speak. Gerard Turk. Please spell your last name for her.
It's T-U-E-R-K.
And you were sworn in?
And I was sworn in, sir.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm on the board of directors for the Santa Rosa Golf Villas on Thompson Road, and we have the president here, Mr. Broussard, also, so we're speaking on behalf. And now we're not going to get into the emotional, but we we need some information concerning this commercial property. If you rezone this or land use, this one corner, that will allow a commercial building, is that correct? Is that correct, sir?
I'm going to answer that now.
Yes.
Yes, actually, the entirety of the entire neighborhood, a small neighborhood, would already allow it and requires it. Not only does it allow it, it requires it as part of the project. It requires 5% of the entire development to be commercial. So that's the reason that we're putting these on here. It's the lowest amount of commercial we could find to not impact the neighborhood. So that's, it was really a formality.
That answers a lot of questions concerning this. If it is required, then, you know, it's required. We have no objections. But the Santa Rosa Golf Villas, and I live in the courtyards of Santa Rosa Beach, we have no commercial buildings. So everybody's kind of like, what's going on here? You know, so this gives us information that this is required by the zoning. Is that correct? By the land use. So there's no getting around this at this point.
Right.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Tamara Thompson.
Good afternoon, or evening.
Were you sworn in, Ms. Thompson?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay.
My name is Tamara Thompson. I just learned of this hearing 2 days ago. I was not notified by mail. My home is at 168 Thompson Road. I'm here tonight because I'd like information on this project. My home directly faces Thompson Road, and the project concerns me greatly regarding traffic.
The broader project or this one little corner?
Both. The thought of a commercial, any type of commercial development, as well as I'm hearing 60, possibly upwards of 60 homes. My home faces Thompson Road, and again, the traffic. I just want to know what their plans are as far as controlling that traffic.
We're not reviewing that part of it tonight.
I understand.
So, just the one little corner changing it.
And I just wondered what the rule is as far as notification, because what I understand, I purchased my home 9 months ago, and from what I understand, I should have been notified by mail of this impending hearing, and I was not. So
How close are you to it?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm at 168, so not far. I drove down there last night. So
What's the range they have?
What's the radius?
It's 300 feet, I believe. 300 feet.
And the notifications were sent, and the certified receipts were received.
The applicant actually does the notifications for the 300 feet
Right.
area, and then they give us the green cards where people have signed for them. So if you're outside that 300 feet, then you would not fall in the notice area, then you would not get a mailer to your house. Now, and the notices are based off of tax records, so whatever's on tax records, whatever address is on file, that's where they're gonna go.
So do you think you're within 300 feet?
I doubt it. It's
Yeah,
a
that's
brand new
pretty close.
house too. They just, like I said, I just purchased it, so
Okay.
I just wondered where I can get information on this.
Now, also, the property's posted, and also there's an ad in the paper too, so in the future, you may want to kind of, I mean, it sounds kind of boring, but you may want to kind of look through the legal ads, because it'll be a legal ad in the paper saying what all, I mean, the whole agenda's in there as well, and so, I know it's
But
kind
if you're
of
within
hard
the
to look at it all the
radius,
time,
you'll
but, yeah.
But there, I mean, we don't have the information on the bigger project yet, but I'm sure you can get on
I'll
the
find
planning
it.
department, and our planner here will have
I
that.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the hearing.
I just have a question for the
Go
applicant,
ahead.
if you wouldn't mind. These are gonna be commercial spaces, and if I understood what you said, this is against the developer's wishes to put commercial in there?
Yes, they actually are. He got a little heated during our meeting, actually, that he had to build these commercial spaces as part of the development. Small neighborhood, I believe in the comprehensive plan, does not state that it's required, but it says it's part of it. But I believe the land development code is the portion that says a minimum of 5% is required.
It's just a conflict.
Well, I mean, you know, in small neighborhoods, you have to do mixed use, which is you have to do commercial. Whether, I mean, it's sort of a shotgun approach, no matter where it is, you gotta do this mixed use approach. That works in some places it doesn't work. That is the code today, and that's what we apply.
So what are the?
Makes sense in some cases, probably not.
Okay. And that's an honest answer. I think I may be more curious than anything else to, I mean, what are those gonna be in that neighborhood?
Right now, more than likely a real estate office for initial sales, and there are no plans. They have no plans currently for the other office space. Office was the lowest impact that we could think of to add to this. So if you know anyone that wants something ready, send them to the developers. And we also, not part of really this discussion, but there is a small portion across the south. You can see the gray line there. That's a multi-use path that will be dedicated to the public, that will connect to Helen McCall. So that does actually cross into this little piece here. And we'll talk about that more when it comes up as a major project.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Can I just ask one other question?
We can. The process does not allow that right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sure you can talk to him as soon as he goes down.
Thank you.
All right? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Any commissioners have anything else?
Nope.
We have a motion. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, before we get to the last item, can I make one quick comment? Something that was said early in the meeting has kind of been bothering me a little bit. If I could just briefly, someone mentioned earlier in an earlier item that they met with staff and got nowhere with staff. I want to make sure that it's very clear what our role is in this process, because I don't know if that person understood our role. We're not in the process of making deals with people. We're not in the business of trying to, do whatever. It's our responsibility is to apply the code to that particular project. It's not our role to do swaps and make these deals with people. That's not what we do. I want to make that very, very clear, because it was almost implied that we didn't try to help them. What we want to do is help them understand what our role is. If there's something we miss or something we can clarify, we want to do that, but not go in there and try to make deals and those kind of things. That's not our role. So that's bothered me a little bit. I just want to make sure y'all knew that.
I appreciate that, and I guess I missed that inference, but.
Well, I thought I was speaking then. I said, well, I'll wait, but it's been kind of on my conscience, so I just want to mention that. Mr. Chairman, number 5 is the mobile fixture small-scale amendment. This is a request to go from rural village to light industrial on 1.873 acres. Again, I'll ask Ms. Semlin to come up and brief the board on this application.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, this is a small-scale amendment. The applicant is William J. Garrett, and it's being submitted by Forrest Daniel and Associates. The proposed amendment, as Mr. Dice already said, is a request to go from rural village to light industrial on approximately 1.87 acres. The proposed amendment to the map is requested to initiate future development of 25,000 square feet of commercial kitchen equipment. It's going to be an equipment showroom and warehouse. And it's right at the corner there of 331 and Norris Cutoff Road. And I think I will let the applicant answer any more questions unless you have more for me.
I've got one. Why does it have to be light industrial if it's going to be a showroom?
One of the issues that we ran into as far, it was the size. The rural village will allow you to have, a commercial type business like this, but it limits the square footage, and they wanted to go up to 25,000 square feet.
Did they have to, if Winn-Dixie came in there, you wouldn't have to rezone that to light industrial, would you?
No, they could possibly go to general commercial. It may also have to do with the availability of utilities. I believe there's water there, right, but not wastewater. So
but also there's locational criteria for these land uses. And so one may make sense there, but when you start applying the locational criteria, as Sam mentioned, water, sewer, or within so many feet of an intersection, in some cases intersections don't exist to place the commercial land use designation. So what happens is you start having to go through these lists to find out something that does fit that area. When you start applying the locational criteria for the land use districts. And in this case, light industrial was the best solution, the best option they had to achieve their development goals they have for the property.
Is that something you're gonna take up in the air report? Or you like the way that stands? I mean, it sounds like it.
I do like the locational criteria because it takes away a lot of the subjectivity of it. I mean, to me, the more defined you can be, I think the better off you are. Sometimes you do run into problems with that, so there may be some tweaks to that, but in general, I'm not opposed to the locational criteria because it does help define it and provide better guidance rather than being all subjective to opinion. So.
Good.
Other questions?
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Commission. My name is David Lamar. I'm the project civil engineer, and I have not been sworn.
Sir, you just raised your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity to come before you. I am a civil engineer. I've practiced primarily in Escambia County. I have done some things this way, but I do a lot of work with Forrest Daniel, who is the architect who came over and met with Ms. Sammelman originally. And then because of the nature of the land use change, not the architectural aspect of where we are now, he passed the baton to me back this summer. So I'm actually the applicant for Mr. Garrett. We do propose a a small scale amendment for this 1.87 acres. It is located at really a prime intersection in terms of the newly widened 331, and there are not many access points along 331 that have full access both north and south for traffic. And that's one of the reasons that we think this is a good fit for this changing part of the 331 corridor. There are commercial businesses on this stretch that it's really a rectangle that's framed by Norris Cutoff Road, 331, and then Jolly Bay. There are some changes that there is change coming in that area, and we feel like this is a good fit to proceed with that change.
I think you're at the front end of a lot of change right there.
Yes, I think you're right. It is the predominant use in that area is residential, or it's vacant residential. Got plenty of potential for that, and there is a requirement not within the light industrial that we're proposing the small scale amendment to change, but in the rural village there's a 95% requirement for residential, and there's still plenty of land in that general vicinity, so a commercial land use change or a light industrial land use change we don't feel is contrary to the comp plan or to the facets of the land development code that we have to conform to. Traffic, the existing business is actually now in Miramar Beach. It's mobile fixture. It's a kitchen equipment sales and showroom. So there's going to be quite a split. There will be a fairly large, there's 6,000 square feet of showroom, not quite 18,000 in the warehouse, and then a 2,000 area for offices within the building. As far as water and sewer usage, we don't feel like it's going to be very heavy because we really are serving two sets of restrooms, one for the warehouse portion of the building, one for the showroom and sales and office area. I have spoken with the Freeport utilities, and there is a low-pressure sewer line that comes all the way to 331 on Norris Cutoff. So we're proposing a duplex grinder pump lift station that will handle a fairly small amount of sanitary sewage. Water main is there. I think there's a 10-inch water main in 331. So I think we're in good shape with that. We will have to go through traffic concurrency when we come back for the development order to go through that process, which is separate from this. And we feel like that the trips will not be that significant. We're estimating 25 peak hour trips for this site. It's not very many trips for
significant acreage, relatively speaking. It's 6 times the trips that you would expect if this property were to be developed as a residential, for a residential use. I'm not sure, I'm happy to, I mean, I've had one conversation with an adjacent property owner, and I don't know if she's here tonight. I don't know if you had anyone signed up to speak. But I did speak with her and tried to answer her questions, and if she had further ones, I suppose she might have been here tonight. But I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you have. I don't know if y'all's process as well as I do over there, so I'm not sure if I need to say more before you ask questions, or?
I think you've answered most of them, but we can see if anybody has any questions for you.
All right, sir.
Commissioners?
I have a couple of questions. Is there a reason why your building is only 10-foot setback to the north cutoff?
The main reason for that is just the circulation, the on-site circulation for the trucks that will enter. I can talk with the architect and see if there's a way to give a little bit more separation there. We've certainly got more than adequate separation, building setbacks on the 331 side and for the adjacent property owners with the buffers that we're proposing. I don't know if specifically 10 is the requirement. That may be why he's got it that way, to try and create as much circulation space. We did come in from Norris Cutoff rather than from 331 because the geometry of the vehicles coming in just couldn't make that turn coming in at the midpoint of the property coming off of 331. It would make it very, very difficult. So that's why we make a big loop around the building. But that's certainly a question I can take back to the architect, and we can review it as we go through site plan. I think this is conceptual in our mind.
Right. You have another one?
No, I like the idea of it having a little bit of buffer, which is
Yeah.
what he said he was going to do for the neighbors and the residents that live around.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Nobody has signed up to speak. Is there anybody who wishes to address this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Commissioners?
Motion to approve.
You're getting good at that tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, and we will stand adjourned.
There's one exhibit hanging out somewhere that I marked. That's it. There you go. No, wait, that's it right there.
big one, yeah.
I'll take it from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We leave stuff in.
Yeah, I just leave it here, that way I'm